The Kim Jong-un bars, like, really? I dictate like Kim Jong. So that was a clip of us reacting to one of the lines on Jack Harlow's new album, Come Home, the Kids Miss You. And we just did a live album reaction to that project. You guys could actually access it right now on our Patreon. Link available in our description. It was awesome to go through the album with the entire community, even though this new album didn't shape up to what it could have been. And guys, let us know in the comments what you think of the album. But going into this album review, I know we both didn't have the highest of expectations, but this was a fucking letdown.
It was a letdown. And I want to start with the artist performance like usual. You know, we're going to go through our categories, and I think like that's where the quality really dips down. Is like Jack didn't do anything here, bro. Like, you know, I enjoy Jack's style and cadences. I like that smooth flow. I love it when he goes on to a song like, you know, Nail Tech, or even, you know, Tyler Hero or What's Poppin', with all kinds of flows and cadences and this, you know, really braggadocious energy. But I feel as if where the artist performance falls flat for me is really how he carries this track list, because you're gonna find two different styles from him: either super romantic and super melodic, or introspective type of Jack Harlow. And it gets super boring throughout the track list for a 15-song album. And I think that also when you're looking at a lot of the hooks on this album, example like Poison, I Got a Shot, Side Piece, these are some of the worst hooks that I've heard all year, and I know he could do much better than that. So where do you think the performance, you know, really falls flat with this?
Yeah, listen, I just think that like on his best day, Jack Harlow is kind of a mediocre rapper, but with this album, it just seems like he couldn't escape the Drake comparisons, and it's for good reason. I mean, a lot of his flows and cadences are super similar to Drake. Also, on a song like Dua Lipa, you'll hear vocal inflections that remind you of G-Eazy. So what I took out of this was that Jack Harlow is kind of, you know, failing to carve his own identity as a rapper, which he does have identity. He does, in previous projects, bring through that southern drawl and has these inflections that are kind of unique to him. But he just threw that out the window on this one. And it's also crazy to see that, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but Jack Harlow is not a good singer. And if this album is any evidence of that, you'll find on songs like I Got a Shot or Movie Star, where he's trying to hit these high notes and the vocals just fall flat. And I get it that he's kind of trying to appeal to the ladies, have this mainstream appeal. But at the end of the day, it came off as one of the most formulaic albums I've heard in a long time, because you're getting him rapping about girls he's trying to seduce. Then he's trying to fill the verses with out-of-context lyrics. Then you're going to get him sampling a hit record from the 2000s. And then you randomly get a beat switch. That's the formula for almost every single song on here. And I think that the way he curated this album was really not good. And there's nothing really that positive to say about his performance.
Absolutely. I think realistically, there are I think maybe a couple of good performances with Nail Tech, Churchill Downs. That first verse was good. And then after that, I would probably say Little Secret. I mean, Little Secret was one of the melodic performances on the album that I actually really did enjoy, because it was coherent. You know, it actually seemed like there was a vision behind that song, and the storytelling was nice, and the way he led you into each verse was cool.
Still
it's just
mediocre. In comparison to the rest, it looks
exactly
good, but
if
still not solid.
If you really take it out of that, yeah. And like the whole Drake thing, like I understand, you know, really wearing your influences on your sleeve, but this was way too evident, and that's what I didn't like out of this. Example, a song like Poison, that sounds like a complete bite and ripoff of a Drizzy track, and that's what I didn't like about it. Is like Jack Harlow has this unique style to him that, you know, I fucked with in the past, but just didn't transpire here. And I think the artist performance was actually bad. Like, it didn't do anything for me. But let's go on to the content, because things don't look bright here either, to be honest with you. Like, a lot of misguided writing, and I understand, okay, like there's gonna be romantic talk, and you know there's gonna be, you know, the seducing throughout an album, and honestly, like I like that from rappers, you know, like that's what I fuck with Drake for, and you know, putting you into that atmosphere, putting you into that mood. But this was completely out of context, because the way Jack Harlow delivers it is just with these really corny, you know, punchlines that never really correlate or lead into anything. And I'll let you read some of your lines.
Some of the lines that I have, yeah. I mean, look, in terms of the content, though, before I get to that, I just feel like he's trying to kind of adjust and settle into this new position of fame and kind of, you know, seducing women and everything that comes with his new lifestyle. But at the end of the day, you get the same love song 15 times over, which is misguided, is aimless. But yeah, some of the bars on here that I took down that were very cheesy, in my opinion, would have to be, you can find my name next to Smooth in the Thesaurus on Young Harlezy. I mean, I don't know how smooth it is if you have to make a reference like that. Apart from that, what else did I bring up?
I had something on first class, and
What
this
did
I
you
think
have?
this was the most shocking bar I had. Pineapple juice, I give her sweet, sweet, sweet semen. That's what I'd gotten off
That
of
was
that.
pretty laughable,
Side
bro.
piece. Back when I was a young man, I liked them girls that was in Abercrombie. I liked them girls that I was in Aeropostale. Come on, dude. We're not in high school anymore. Like that's the thing is like. I've heard better performances as far as content goes. Just I didn't enjoy
But
this
that's
one.
who he's speaking to, right? That high school female kind of demographic. That's where the music is kind of guided towards. It's not necessarily speaking to us, but without that, you don't get anything meaningful from Jack. Like, for example, you'll get a song where, he's talking about, I think it's the song called Side Piece, where he's talking about his girl on the side and how much he values her. And then he'll randomly bring up a line about how cops in Argentina told him to go back because it wasn't
wrote
safe.
that down,
and I'm
bro.
like, what?
Yeah.
Bro, where does this come from?
And like that doesn't get me cheese, but you know what that shows me is just like how there were certain instances within the album where you had to fill in verses, and that was another thing for First Class. Bro, like the hook was phenomenal because it's a classic Fergie song, but once you get to the actual verses, super short, super misleading, and then again you're getting the pineapple bar. So I mean, what
It's
are you really
filler.
getting out of the content? Absolutely, the content was bad. I think that you're gonna go into this album and again, like it's not even the melodic or romantic stuff. It's just like it's executed in a poor way. But let's go into the features, all right? Because he had put out something on his social media saying legends only for this feature list, and these are all legends. They're all fantastic artists. But I mean, in the context of this album, really there was only one good feature, and it was Drake. He ripped his verse on Churchill.
Drake had
Churchill
the best
Downs.
part on this entire album. Like, he was the standout of the entire project. And I mean, this is classic Drizzy, where he's kind of in a vent session where he's just, letting his thoughts be spoken out freely. And there's power behind every word, and I feel like it's quietly powerful. He's on his Don shit on that song.
Absolutely.
And
Like a welcome to the league sort of verse too. Like, welcome in, like this is what you have to do and what type of standard you have to get to. It's just like Jack Harlow's first verse, like I think complimented it well, but Drake absolutely ripped
because it was
apart.
one of the only moments where Jack was actually introspective and had something that made coherent sense from bar to bar. Apart from that, the features weren't good.
No,
I mean,
absolutely
Lil
not.
Wayne on Poison,
That was really not good.
really weak auto-tune displayed there. Then you had Pharrell on, what was that track
Movie
called?
Star.
Movie Star. I didn't like what he brought either with the
It
high-pitched vocals.
It didn't really do anything for me. Justin Timberlake low-key ruined Parent Trap, bro.
I know.
Listen, when I first heard Parent Trap, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be nice, this is gonna be something solid. And then you hear Justin Timberlake come in, and it's like it's off-putting because then it's also like the features bring out more of that pop appeal, and like that's what they're all trying to do with it. And it's weird because like Drake does the complete opposite, where he's delivering like a BB King freestyle sort of verse. And I think that's what I didn't like about the features is like they just didn't make sense and they didn't do anything.
Yeah,
for me
and
at the end of
Snoop
the
Dogg
day.
had a performance on Young Harlezy where he wasn't rapping or anything, but he kind of just was gassing up Jack.
Yeah,
and
like the nice cosign. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was cool.
I
but
like
mean,
that. It was refreshing to
It,
hear.
it was nice. Yeah, no, I think it was a cool moment for Jack Harlow, but features were mid. I don't think you're going to get anything
Absolutely.
else out of it, but let's go on to the production. Dude, how many useless beat switches are you going to get through this album? Like there was also cricket sounds at one point throughout the album. On Movie Star, the second beat switch was really not nice. Like I was in the reaction yesterday and I heard it in my mixing headphones and I'm like, eesh, that does not sound right.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. with it.
And what's crazy is that the production had star-studded casts such as Boy Wonder, you had Roger Shahayed, Babe Truth, Charlie Handsome, and many more. And there are certain highlights, I would say, production-wise. Nail Tech was specifically one that I really liked because you actually have a natural chord progression. You have Coleman who brought in these really triumphant horns, and that was a song that kind of brought out the high energy from Harlow that we were missing on a lot of other songs. And again, that was a song that had a natural progression. A lot of these other beats, yes, they're not one-dimensional, which I was super happy about, but you'll get a beautiful string section and then a random transition into a sound effect of crickets, like you were saying, and then these hard-hitting 808s on a song like Do Anything Make You Smile. And it just proves it proves that all these beats are super arbitrary in the sense that you'll get random sounds being plugged in and you're like, this is not coherent at all.
Yeah, and then you're left asking, like, what am I really getting out of this soundscape? And we all knew that this was going to be like a playlist sort of vibe where you're going to, pluck out certain songs and put them in. But regardless, like, even individually, the beats themselves don't necessarily make sense. And again, going to Churchill Downs, that was produced by Boy Wonder. That is fantastic. That was a fantastic beat. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, it's just, a background loop, but it doesn't even matter, to be honest with you, because that's what you want for Drizzy to go on. And then you do the same thing for Jack Harlow.
I have a question for you,
Yeah,
though.
go for it.
Do you think that he leaned too much on sampling 2000s records.
It's not that it was too much, because it could have worked. My issue was more of like it didn't make sense for certain instances within the track list. Like going on to First Class, like, okay, you know, you're taking one of the biggest bops of the 2000s and you're putting it on your hook and you're implementing it in, but you know, where does that fall again within the track list, and where does that, you know, what type of value are you going to gain out of it?
That was the best part of that song,
exactly.
in my opinion.
But I'm saying is, if you want to go back and get those samples, I mean, just go listen to the fucking songs. You know, they're available to you. You don't have to go to a Jack Harlow album to access those types of sounds.
I see what you're saying. You're kind of saying that like the sample flips did not become reinvented with that sonic production. It just ended up sounding like it was placed there for the appeal of that original song.
And listen, I don't want like Mad Lib, like old Japanese like film samples. Like I didn't expect that going into this album, but I wanted something nice. And I think that there was certain instances where it was, but for the most of the track list, it was mid.
And there was too many of them. I feel like he kind of used it as a crutch, to be honest. But nonetheless, beat selection wasn't that great. Overall, some highlights, but the production was mid overall. And let's not go into the replay value, because this is definitely an important conversation to have. And to be honest with you, there's maybe three or four songs that I feel like are passable on this album, but there's only 2 out of 15 that I'm taking with me.
Absolutely, yeah, First Class and Churchill Downs.
Exactly.
That's pretty
actually
much
not
it.
even First Class. For me, it's Churchill Downs and Nail Tech.
And Nail Tech, my bad. Yeah, I mean, I like the snippet when First Class had came out, and I was like, okay, like that's gonna be a nice song. Then I heard the verse, and I'm like, I can't revisit this. But I think just for me, it's like I have this disconnect with the album, because I'm not too big of a fan of like, you know, pop rap records. And when they're done right, example, like when Drake will do it, it's not even that big of a pop rap record, but let's just say it is, right? Like it's done well, it's super unique, no one's able to replicate it. But I'm going into this album and I'm like, you know, I could get a lot of these sounds on other albums, and that's this track list just feels super empty for me. You know, like how much like Teenage Fever emotional like writing could I really relate to throughout this? And that's kind of where I'm at.
I mean, maybe they'll have some life on TikTok, but they're definitely not going to be in my rotation. So the replay value has to be bad. When you're taking 2 songs out of 15, that's a really weak ratio. But let's now get on to our overall thoughts on this album. And I mean, you know, Jack Harlow kind of wanted to make the statement that he was the new certified lover boy in the block, bringing in these romantic and luxurious themes sprinkled throughout the entire project. But I mean, there was no vision, I feel like, with this album. I mean, even starting off with the album title, Come Home, The Kids Miss You, I didn't really get the purpose behind that. Not only that, but I feel like this album will be confusing to a lot of people, because a lot of the songs have messages that I feel like are anticlimactic. They're not leading anywhere. You have random references and bars that don't really fit into the context of the stories he tries telling, if there even is a story at that within these tracks. And the transitions, production-wise, were really poorly executed. And I get it, Jack Harlow's trying to kind of target the females and whatever else, but in order to do that, in order to get that radio play and to dominate the charts, you need catchy hooks, you need good melodies, you need memorable rhythms, and he didn't really execute on any of those fronts. And I feel like if he's saying he wants to be the face of hip-hop for the 2020s, he has to stop wearing so many masks at the end of the day.
Yeah, like
he has to carve his own identity.
Yeah, there's a serious issue with, you know, the sound and the identity of this album, because a lot of it just feels like, okay, let me take Drake's motto and let me put it into like the context of like a Tyler Hero or What's Poppin'. That's really what it feels like. And as you were saying, you know, it's not even the pop or romantic stuff that gets you. Like that could be executed well. We've seen it before. The issue was that he didn't execute it well. And a big off-putting, you know, point for this album for me was just like, you know, how much lust are you going to talk about before it becomes off-putting? Like that's more of where I'm at with the album, and that's what kind of disconnected me. So listen, I think Jack Harlow's album was bad. I think the overall rating is that, and I hate to say it because, you know, I really enjoyed his material before this. I think he still has a fuckload of potential if he's able to deliver something nicer than this, but at the moment, you know, I'm really not enjoying this.
Yeah, and he's definitely capable of more, so it was sad to see this be so underwhelming. But guys, let us know in the comments, what do you think of the album? And as we mentioned earlier, you guys could access our entire full album reaction, which is uncut right now on Patreon. Link available in our description. And we do these every week, and we're doing one next week for Kendrick Lamar's new album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. You guys do not want to miss that. It's going to be one of the biggest events of the entire year. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.